Here is a smiley dog. Thanks for watching and have an awesome day. What mild injustice was done to you as a child that you are still mad about? I'm sure I could think of something better if I tried, but in grade school I had a teacher that told the class no English words have two U's in them in a row. The next day I said, "What about vacuum?" She then proceeded to say she never said that, essentially calling me a liar in front of the class, even though they all agreed that she said it. I was pissed off as duck. Man, I remember that kind of teachers. How the duck do people like that even end up working with children? It's easier to boss children around than adults. I'm big, you're small. I'm right, you're wrong. And there's nothing you can do about it. Heard the same kind of teacher say no words had 3 vowels in a row. What about beautiful? Queuing. I sympathize. I had a bitch of a German teacher who was teaching us that there was a German word that meant brother and sister. She said there was no equivalent in English. I said, "What about sibling?" She shot me down and said sibling is archaic and no one uses it. Miss Pode, why did you hate me so? Was watching TV with my parents, went to grab an apple, washed it, then came back to the living room to eat it. My father told me I should wash it first, told him I already did. He didn't believe me. A huge argument ensued and ended with me crying alone in my room. Never forget. Oh my god, I hate this. I still have trust issues with my stepfather because of a few instances where he refused to believe me when I was telling the truth. I don't think there is any feeling worse for a child than having an authority figure falsely accusing you of lying. Yup, same. Probably the only thing that tips me over into batshit crazy enraged modies when I'm telling the truth, but people refuse to believe it, usually over simple shit too. I don't really lie all that much in the first place, so it's not like oh, he's lying again. But got him when I say I did something, I got him did it, you piece of shit. Don't ducking tell me what I did and didn't do, and don't smirk at me with your ugly ass stepdad face, you son of a bitch, I'll kill you. You wouldn't be so defensive if you were telling the truth. Why can't you be like your brother? He never lies to me. My teacher took 30 points off a test for using turquoise ink on a test. It was a blue pen. I ducking failed the test because of that. Already posted this further down, but same. Taking a math quiz, couldn't find my pencil. Saw I had a black colored pencil, figured what's the difference. I can only assume my teacher's father beat her with a black colored pencil when she was young. She took one look at my test, eyes went wide, immediately yells at me for not using a pencil. I say sorry, to which she responds sorry isn't good enough. That was over 20 years ago. Still constantly think to myself sorry isn't good enough for black colored pencil? Really? My high school math teacher's rule was that we had to show all the steps involved in solving the problem. The exception to this rule was steps could be skipped if she was able to do them mentally herself. I got a 0 on a homework assignment because I just wrote all the answers down. I told her I thought she could do those problems in her head. She told me that I couldn't possibly do them mentally. When I offered to go to the front of the class and solve similar problems, she just told me to be quiet. Being a shutty teenager, I just had to remark, well, how am I supposed to know what you can do in your head and what you can't? At least I was excused from the rest of that class period. TL, doctor, did math mentally, teacher couldn't. Got kicked out of class. When I was 8 years old, I found a dirty old fish tank in the attic and begged my mom to let me get some fish. She agreed on the condition that I had to clean the fish tank first. This was no small task since the thing was absolutely filthy, but I took it out in the yard with my dad's help and spent the next couple of hours scrubbing it until it was spotless. Excited, I ran back inside to tell my mom I was finished, and she came out to inspect my work. When we came around the corner of the house, I saw my younger brother running away from my spotless fish tank, laughing maniacally. He'd somehow found a hammer lying around and smashed all the glass in the 3 minutes I'd left it unattended. I never did get another fish tank. Duck. This is heartbreaking. It's also tank breaking. My brother was the worst. I spent weeks growing little tomato plant seedlings, and when they were outside waiting to be planted he dumped a ton of water on them and killed them all. Also, he once dropped change in my fish tank and killed all my fish and laughed about it. Also, he broke everything I ever loved. And he has the nerve to complain about the one time I told him he was an adopted robot. Was he? No. Robots have souls and feel compassion. My strict parents didn't let me watch a single M-rated movie until the day I turned 15. A month after my birthday, my 12 and 9-year-old siblings were allowed to go watch an M movie. I've always been upset at how stupidly strict my parents were on me and how lenient they were on my siblings. Oldest child problems. I know exactly what you mean. I had to basically be dying in order to stay homesick from school. I got really good at faking it. Just enough symptoms that I didn't need to go to the doctor. My youngest brother, on the other hand, 6.5 years difference, got the complete opposite treatment. Sometimes, my mother would just poke her head in his bedroom and tell him to go back to sleep. Straight bullshit. Eldest solidarity, my friend. Eldest solidarity. I understand why it happens that way, but man is it frustrating. And all that suffering was in vain, for I turned out to be a failure and my brother and sister with carefree childhoods are both painfully successful. Test child problems. My entire childhood my mom blamed me for every computer problem we had, saying installing games ruined computers. I defended myself, and I even saw her just blindly open attachments sent to her by name she recognized. A couple years before I moved out, I got my own computer. I replaced it 3 years ago with a new one. Nothing was wrong with it other than it was slow and old. Whereas my mom is probably on her 12th computer that she has run into the ground. My mom is the exact same way. She blamed us for every computer problem, but now that she lives alone, she goes through 1 to 3 computers each year, since no one is fixing them for her. One time in 1999 she blamed the amount of email in my Yahoo account for slowing down the internet. Sorry about that, everyone. My bad. Shut, that was you? Duck. This. My mom would do the exact same thing. The best memory was when I was about 14 and playing guitar in my basement. Over my amplified guitar, I hear her scream Franklin, not real name. What did you do to the computer now? I sullenly walked upstairs and looked at the desktop screen. It read, "Do you want to save your Microsoft Word document before exiting?" She never apologized after I told her to read the damned message. Still won't, even to this day. 2 mild injustices. One day, I sliced my forehead open when I was 6. I tripped next to my parents' bed and smacked my head on the wooden foot, the part that makes a sharp right angle that you can step on while climbing in. The cut went down to the bone, and there was blood running down my face. It hurt like a bitch. So they took me to the ER, where I found out I needed to get stitches. "We'll put something on your forehead that will stop the pain," they said. "You won't feel a thing," they said. As it would turn out, I'm resistant to several local anesthetics, probably including the one they used. Nobody believed me when I said I could still feel them touching the cut. So no matter how much I cried that they were hurting me, they wouldn't stop until I was all stitched up. While I was busy being repeatedly impaled by what I assumed were sadists, my dad tried to reassure me a different way. If I was a brave boy and let them continue, he'd take me to Toys R Us and let me buy whatever I wanted. I was 6. I couldn't pass this up. So I fought to sit still, and eventually it was done. But he never took me to Toys R Us like he promised he would, and I'm still mad about that. So yeah, ducking doctors who didn't listen to their patient and a hollow promise. That day sucked. That's horrendous. You should drive to Toys R Us now and buy yourself whatever toy you want. Sir. We haven't carried that for 20 years. 3 injustices. I got a 9.9. Grades go from 1 to 10 on a physics report about global warming because the teacher doesn't give 10s. Pretty sure this was the start of the decline of my motivation for education. Wow, what a ducking convoluted sentence. I had a science teacher in high school that took off marks if your report didn't have a cover page with pizzazz. I always got perfect on the actual science parts of the test, but lost marks because I didn't use enough colors or sparkles on the cover page. I read that as the plural form of pizza. Similar story. When I was a kid, maybe 14. I wasn't a great student and tended to have bad grades because I didn't do shit. That being said, I loved writing stories and little adventures. Lo and behold, one day our assignment is to write a short story, and I pour my ducking soul into it. Ask my mom to help me correct the grammar mistakes for it to be ducking perfect. Big deal at the time, mind you. Teacher gave me a 11 out of 20 because I was obviously not the one who wrote this. I was ducking fuming. I got in trouble for writing duck on the side of the house. I did not write duck on the side of the house. 20 years later and still no one believes me. Duckers. I got sent to sit outside the principal's office and do my work for the day, which was where they sent kids for detention. I was looking around, reading the wall graffiti, pen, and pencil, and saw Fish was here. I took my razor and started to remove it when the secretary came out and saw me. I had to clean all of the graffiti from the walls and desks. I didn't write it, and all I was holding was an eraser. Never did find out who framed me. My older brother got in trouble for bad grades, so my parents enacted a month-long house-wide ban on TV, video games, renting movies, 80s kid, and comic books. My grades were fine, Mom. They're fine. Good damn it, the new G.I. Joe movie is on tomorrow. When my brother was in high school, and I was in middle school, he started to drink small amounts of alcohol. My parents noticed the missing alcohol and he reluctantly admitted to it. Grounded for a month. I have to admit I was a bit excited, as it would be a month that I got to control the TV, being the little brother and all, until my mom said I was grounded as well, because I didn't tell on him. What the duck, Mom? I didn't even do anything. My sister got suspended from school our senior year, we are twins, for drinking at prom, which meant I also got her punishment, because my parents couldn't let us do anything separate, so I had a 10 PM curfew, no parties, and no car as a precaution. Thanks, Mom. Ah yes, the whole twins, can't possibly be different people thing. When I was 3 or 4 years old, a girl at school poured paint on my head and clothes because she was a bitch. I spent the day crying like a baby because, well, I was a baby. And when I finally went home, I was punished for ruining my clothes. I'll never forgive you, Letitia. Maybe she was just upset that her name wasn't really a name, but a bad Scrabble hand. The hell you talking about, bad Scrabble hand? There's like 14 vowels in there. Kids used to bully me every day and I'd ignore them up to the point they got physical when I would defend myself. Teachers coming across the scene would always assume I'd instigated it, since I was big for my age, and I got a reputation by the teachers as a bully. Whenever I talked to the teachers, they'd respond with "X wouldn't do, that he's a good boy." Or you expect me to believe that with your track record? Bummed me out, man. I know those feels. I was always the biggest kid, and it was like every single person thought, hey, if I beat him up, I'll be top dog. They always seemed to forget the part where they actually had to fight me. And of course the teachers did nothing, because you're bigger than them, you can handle it. Which always turned into you're bigger than them, you should have let us handle it. My 6th grade teacher gave out 2 different Christmas cards. This was when you were still allowed to do that. The special pets got a big expensive card with a personal note and box of candy. The rest of us got a cheap little card. She was a horrible woman. I'm still convinced she was a sleeper Soviet agent who was really pissed off that she was never activated. But then shouldn't everyone have gotten the same card? Some students are more equal than others. In 1st grade, my teacher was giving some dumb little speech about how everybody is different. At one point she put her finger on her nose and said some people have short noses and some people have long noses. Like me. I leaned over to the kid sitting next to me, one of my best friends, or so I thought, and said quietly, she must be a witch, because witches have long noses. He didn't say anything, but half nodded, avoiding eye contact. A few minutes later, when the teacher is done talking, he gets up and walks over to her. He tells her something, pointing at me. She comes over and asks me if I called her a witch. I don't remember if I admitted it or not, but I ended up having to sit in the hall for, I don't know, probably 15 minutes. It totally sucked. Man, your friend was a bitch. I had a teacher once fight with me about whether or not it was could've or could've. She was an English teacher. She was insisting it was could've and had it written on the board and everything. My explanation that it was a contraction and stood for could have did not sway her. Looking back, I think she was trying to save face in front of an entire classroom. It is funny that people will argue to the ends of the earth to save face, when I think it looks a lot better if they just admit they are wrong and move on. My English teacher kept saying acronym when she meant anagram. I corrected her once, and she just spat out which one of us spent their lives getting an English degree. Duck you, Miss Sanghara. The one who's wrong. My brother and I have a year age difference. He was, and still is, a giant duck face. When we were 5 or 6ish, I was innocently playing with my Barbies when he ran past and punched me in the back of the head. I chased him because I was going to kick his ass. He ran straight to mum and told her I was hitting him. I got a smack and put in timeout. I was framed for a crime I didn't commit. I still bring it up to my mother. I still have no justice. When I was about 4, my older brother and I were in our room, and I hid my toe on the bed frame and started crying. So my mom came in, assumed my older brother had done something, and slapped him. When my older brother explained what happened, she said he deserved it for the bad things he's done and gotten away with. My sister used to do this. I'd walk past her room and she'd yell out to mom that I was hitting her. Eventually it stopped, but only after I started hitting her. Shocked the hell out of her too. Why'd you hit me? Well, if I'm going to get in trouble for the crime anyway, I may as well experience the fun of actually committing it. She didn't like that. I didn't care. When I was a kid, my sister and I were dragged along with my mom to get groceries. At the end of the day, because we were good, we got the rare treat of picking out a chocolate to have on the way home. In the car, my sister said to me, "I bet you can't fit that entire bar in your mouth." I took the challenge and put the entire Mars bar in my mouth and gulped it down quickly. My sister saved her packet of Smarties for days and would eat them really slowly in front of me. Never forgive. Never forget. Sisters. Malevolent and omniscient. When I was 10, I taught myself and then my best friend how to install Linux so that his little sister couldn't mess with his computer. I begged my father to buy me the official match ball from the France '98 World Cup. I couldn't wait to be coolest kid in the neighborhood. On the first day playing with my friends, the ball deflected on a wall's surface and went over the fence of a neighbor's backyard. I went politely ask of the ball back. This old man and his wife came up saying it had broken his flowers, and the guy sliced the ball open with a big knife. I was so devastated, I played with it for about an hour. They are now much older and I don't think they recognize me. But one day, I know the universe shall make things right. I had an old guy do practically the same thing to me once. I alternate between feeling righteous and ashamed that I went back to that park as a teenager and tore his goddamn fence off its posts. I was homeschooled until 6th grade. My point, parents forgot about the whole schooling part of homeschooling. I didn't even know what long mathematics were and didn't learn to read until I was 10. I remember after the first day of school, I went to my parents because I didn't know how to write half of the letters in the alphabet. I turned out above average with reading and writing, but a little low on math by the end of 6th grade. But damn, I had one hell of a slow start. The op said mild injustice. This is straight up negligence. My grandmother was first generation American, lived through the Depression, and was Sicilian. To call her a battle axe would be an injustice to axes used to slay your enemies. But you know, when someone's your nana and they make meatballs that good, you go see them. I have no idea how old I was, but I'd been losing baby teeth. I had a really loose one on this particular day. All day Nan was like, "Oh honey, let me see, and Nana will make it better for you, and I just want to see how your teeth are coming in." I wasn't buying it at all. My tooth would fall out when it was damn well ready. Nan was going to flick my tooth out. I knew it. My mom knew it. There was no way. But I was weak. So weak. Nan badgered me all day. "Oh honey, have another meatball, maybe it will help loosen it." "Fine, I'll eat your damn meatball." She finally broke my will. "Just let me look for 2 seconds." "Okay fine. But don't touch it." And it happened. Nan flicked my tooth out. She flicked the shit out of it. She flicked this little tooth with such ferocity that it shot directly down my throat. I was gagging and choking on my tooth. I swallowed the tooth. "Nan, what the duck?" She thought it was hilarious. "How is the tooth fairy gonna come now? What have you done?" The fairy came, but I never saw the tooth again. When I was in the 4th grade, Pokemon was the hottest thing at our school. I remember spending entire lunch hours doing nothing but battling kids or trying to sell my cards on our equivalent of the black market. Enter Elliot. Elliot was a class clown slash thundercunt. He took every joke too far and didn't see any boundaries on what he could do. One fine summer day I was sitting in the back of our homeroom when I was hit by a sudden feeling of sickness. I run up to the front of the class and yak in the garbage can. Teacher proceeds to send me to the office to get some rest, leaving my bag in the back of the classroom. While I was lying in the office, Elliot proceeded to go into my backpack and take my best cards, including Torterra LVLX. I get back to class towards the end of the day, and when I look through my cards, I see that I'm missing quite a few from my rare pages. Elliot is also sporting some pretty new rare cards, most of which are mine. We proceed to get in quite the verbal fight that ends in both of us getting sent to the vice principal's office. There he admits to stealing my cards and the vice principal proceeds to scold me by telling me we need to learn how to share with each other. My sister and I shared a bedroom when we were very young. We would often stay up and chat before nodding off. One night she couldn't sleep, claimed she couldn't get comfy, and asked if I slept on my side, stomach, back. Just wondering about a possible comfier mystical trick that would guarantee falling asleep. She said if I could find a way, she would even pay me a whopping 4 cents. I held up my end of the bargain. Told her side sleeping in a certain way was the answer. She fell asleep. Haven't seen my goddamn ducking 4 cents. I need that 4 cents. Calculate interest and send her a bill. With compounded daily interest, late fees, transfer fees, missed payment fees, taxes, and loan insurance. You owe me 63 bucks, sister. I used to play field hockey. I was about maybe 10 or so. Went to an all-girls Catholic private school. You know the sort. Anyway, I was on this team, and one of my teammates and casual friend was called Katie. Katie's mum coached the hockey team, so you can guess where this is going. We were all told to pass to Katie Moore, defend Katie Moore. Katie. Katie wasn't even that good at hockey. My two friends and I dominated that field. We were good. But that's not even injustice done to me. No, the injustice came in a little plaque of wood with a fake gold statue of girl with a hockey stick. Player of the Day trophy. Goddamn did we all want it. We hungered for that piece of shit. To have it for 1 week and lord it about everyone. Have it beside our bed at night and wake up to be reminded of the day we finally won it. This trophy was steadily handed around to every player in the team. Everyone got to have it once. That's how it went. Except I never got it. Not once. It went around the entire team 2 full times and I never got that ducking player of the day trophy. Not even once. I used to leave the games crying because another week had gone by and someone else got to take it home. But never me. Mum spoke to Katie's mum, but I never got it and was later pulled from the team. Man-parent competitiveness is so petty and bullshit. When I was 5, my mom remarried and I got a stepbrother and stepsister. My stepbrother, 4 years older than me, and I both collected baseball cards. One day, he tells my mom that I'm not taking good enough care of my cards. I kept them loose in shoe boxes and that my cards would all get dog-eared and lose value. I didn't care about value. I just liked the cards themselves. He tells her that he'd buy them from me and take better care. I didn't want him to buy them, but since my mom was still trying to get in good with my stepdad and his kids, she made me sell them to him for $30. I had around $300 worth of cards at that time. I never bought another baseball card and still get mad about it if I think about it long enough. You should buy your stepbrother baseball cards for every holiday, except open the package and dog tear all the cards before giving them to him. When I was a wee lad there was this indoor amusement park thing in my city that I just loved. In hindsight, it was probably pretty lame, but when I was bite-sized everything seemed massive and gnarly fun. Anyways, I love this place so much, I decide I want to have my birthday party there. So I invite my whole squad, and since it's summer and we're kiddos, everyone can come. Best day of my life. But it was not so. That day, on my birthday, they decided to tighten up their rules on height requirements for rides. Guess who magically became too short for literally every ride? Me. Guess who was the shortest kid in first grade? Me. Guess who had to watch all his friends ride all the rides, while I stood to the side, being consoled by my dad? Me. Happy birthday me, I guess. In high school we had a student teacher for French class. She used the token system for behavior, like it seems every student teacher uses. Anyways, I was heading to class. I was running a little later than normal, but the bell hadn't rang yet. I get to the door, and she closes it in my face, while talking and looking the opposite direction. I look through the window, and give a WTF. Look to a few kids in the front row. The teacher is talking, and I don't want to interrupt, so I wait patiently for her to stop. As I'm waiting, the bell rings. She finally shuts up and I knock. All of this took maybe a minute total. She lets me in, and says that I'm late, and I'll have to lose some of the fake currency. One of the students in the front row says you slammed the door in his face before the bell rang. She says it doesn't matter, I should have been there before she closed the door. I spent the rest of the class cussing her out in French under my breath. When I was 6 or 7, we were really broke, single mom, 2 kids, living paycheck to paycheck, shuffling bills to buy food, no new clothes/toys etc. It was a particularly bad week for us financially, and my mom was struggling to gather together some scraps for our lunches to bring to school. I never had the kind of sack lunches that the other kids wanted to trade for, but rarely did I get made fun of for it. Until one day I brought a sandwich on 2 heels of bread, spread with the last of the butter and jam we had, and one of the lunchroom teachers said to my tiny precious 6-year-old self, "Geez, new radio 007, when does your mom get paid?" Haha. Stuck with me ever since. Ducking bitch. When I was 8 or 9 I was at the beach with my cousins, a group ranging from age 5 or 6 up to 10. My auntie was supposed to be watching us, but went up the house for some reason, leaving the big kids in charge of the little ones. We weren't supposed to be getting wet. The sea had other plans. As remember it, a big freak wave came, way higher than the rest of them. It swept up past the high tide mark and kept coming. We ran but it caught us. All 7 kids, soaking wet. My auntie was furious and her anger was directed at me. Rather than be relieved that none of us drowned, she went into punish mode. Those in charge must pay, and that's where the unfair thing happened. I was not the oldest there, but her son was. He was beyond reproach, obviously, so by default I was dubbed the ringleader, told I got everyone wet deliberately, and sent straight to bed. I could hear the rest of them getting dry by running around outside, playing in the sun, but I had to lie in bed with the curtains pulled, and think about what I'd done. I didn't. I seethed. 21 years later it still feels so unjust. Next time you see her you should dump a bucket of water over her head and say, "How dare you choose to show up drenched at a family gathering?" Back in grade school, I was playing Joseph in the church Christmas play. I improvised a joke and got a great laugh, but afterward, the director yelled at me to stick to the script. The next year, I wasn't in the play, but apparently she told everyone feel free to improvise. Just have fun with it. My older brother started a fart jar, which was a huge glass jar the size of a small beer keg that I didn't know about, that they used to push their airborne particulate into because why not? It was the 90s. I was unaware of this until I was told to go open that big jar in the pantry and see what it smells like. Never forget. I think I'd be more upset at the fact they kept it in the pantry with the food. One day when I was 12, I got sick in class and the principal sent me home. I walked straight home, passing by a supermarket that apparently my Latin teacher was shopping in. She called my parents and told them she saw me shopping in the supermarket while I was just walking past it trying to get home. I got in so much trouble. To this day, I'm 22, my parents still don't believe me. The part that doesn't make sense is why you would go grocery shopping and why the Latin teacher was doing her groceries during school hours. My parents divorced when I was 2. I never met my father. All I wanted was 2 ducking Christmases like the rest of my friends. Well, I was in 7th grade. We were the first class in our city to learn French since first grade point, so at the end of the school year, the top 3 students would win a trip to Paris for 10 days, all for free. I was the best in the class, so I was sure of my departing. A week before the trip, my teacher came to me and told me that as the best in the class, I don't need to go to France, but instead she gave my spot to a 5th grade student who turned out to be her nephew, and thus my desire to learn French completely vanished. I was in 3rd or 4th grade and got an F on my math test. The teacher was super proud to tell the whole class how all my answers had correct solutions, but I didn't use the methods that she showed us, so that's why she failed me. Duck you, Vanessa.